had expected. Gradually, however, the tall grey buildings gave way to smaller houses, and the familiar red buses grew less in number, until at long last the driver turned a corner and brought the taxi to a halt in a side street near a group of large buildings. "Here we are, Gov," he said. "Can't get right up to the gates, I'm afraid. There's a bit of an obstruction. But it's only a few yards up the road. Can't miss it. Just follow your nose." The driver paused and looked down out of his cab with growing concern as Paddington, after stepping down onto the pavement, began twisting about for several seconds, and then suddenly fell over and landed with a bump in the gutter. "Here," he called anxiously. "Are you all right?"
"I think so," gasped Paddington, feeling himself to make sure. "I was only trying to follow my nose, but it kept disappearing."
"Well, you has to point it in the right direction to start with," said the driver, as he helped Paddington to his feet and began dusting him down. "You're in the right state and no mistake."
Paddington examined himself sadly. His fur, which a moment before had been as clean and shiny as a new brush, was now covered in a thick layer of dust, and there were several rather nasty-looking patches of oil on his front as well. Worse still, although he still had tight hold of his suitcase with one paw, the other was completely empty. "I think I've dropped my invitation card down the drain," he exclaimed bitterly. The driver climbed back into his cab.
"It's not your day, mate," he said sympathetically. "If I were you, I'd get where you're going to as quickly as possible before anything else happens."
Paddington thanked the driver for his advice, and then hurried off down the road in the direction of an imposing-looking building with a large illuminated jar on its side. As he drew near the entrance, he sniffed several times. There was a definite smell of marmalade in the air, not to mention one or two kinds of jam, and he quickened his step as he approached the small office to one side of the gates, where a man in uniform was standing. The man eyed Paddington up and down.
"We're not taking any bears at the moment," he said sternly. "I should try the ice cream factory next door."
"I haven't come to be taken on," exclaimed Paddington hotly, giving the man a hard stare. "I've come to see Sir Huntley Martin."
"Oh, yes," said the gatekeeper sarcastically. "And who are you, pray? Lord Muck himself?"
"Lord Muck?" repeated Paddington. "I'm not a lord. I'm Paddington Brown."
"Have you seen yourself in a mirror lately?" asked the gatekeeper. "Lord you may not be, but mucky you certainly are. I suppose you've left your rolls round the corner."
"My rolls?" said Paddington, looking most surprised. "I didn't bring any rolls, only some cocoa. I thought I was going to eat here."
"Here? Here?" said the gatekeeper, taking a deep breath. "I don't want no cheek from the likes of you. There's an important ceremony taking place this afternoon. They're opening a new factory building, and I've strict instructions to keep the gates clear. We don't want no young unemployed bears hanging about letting the place down. If you want a job," he continued, picking up a telephone inside his office, "I'll call the foreman. Though what he'll think of it all, I don't know. It says hands wanted on the board. It doesn't say anything about paws."
Paddington looked more and more upset as he listened to the gatekeeper. "But I haven't come about a job," he exclaimed, when at long last he could get a word in. "I've been invited to Sir Huntley's ceremony."
"Oh, yes," said the gatekeeper disbelievingly. "And I suppose you'll tell me next you've lost your invitation card."
"That's right," said Paddington. "I had a bit of an accident when I got out of my taxi, and it fell down a drain."
"Look," said the gatekeeper crossly. "Pull the other leg. It's got bells on. I've met your sort before. After a free tea, no doubt. The only way you'll get into this factory, my lad, is through the works entrance like anyone else."
He turned as a figure came hurrying out of the main building.
"Here's the foreman, and I'd advise you to watch your step. He doesn't stand any nonsense." "There's a young out-of-work bear here, Fred," he called as the foreman reached the gate. "I was wondering if you could fix him up."
"I told the job centre we're a bit short-handed," said the foreman, looking Paddington up and down, "but I reckon they must be in a worse state than we are. Do you know anything about marmalade?" he added, not unkindly. "Oh, yes," said Paddington eagerly. "I eat a lot of it at home. Mrs. Bird's always grumbling about my jars."
"Well, I don't know what to suggest," said the foreman, as Paddington returned his gaze very earnestly. "Is there anything in particular you'd like to try your paw at?"